Welcome, everybody, to It's Fine, an official podcast of Broken Arrow Public Schools on the ArrowVision Network. I'm your host, Adam J. Foreman, Assistant Director of Fine Arts for the district, and today it's all fine arts all the time. This episode would not be possible without our wonderful, generous One Club sponsors, First National Bank of Broken Arrow, TTCU Federal Credit Union, Ascension St. John, Tulsa Bone and Joint, and the Arrow Group. Today's episode is all about fine arts in elementary schools, featuring two amazing guests across from me. So let me introduce you to everybody. Welcome, Kit Parker. Hey, Kit, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, you are the elementary music team lead coordinator.
Yes.
And the music teacher at Rosewood Elementary.
Yes.
Yes, and it's your first year at Rosewood.
It's my first year at Rosewood.
Because you were a Rhodes gal for a long, long time.
I was, and I loved it there. It was
Yes, yes. So tell us a little bit about no, hold on just a second.
Okay.
And we have another guest sitting here. It's Katy Cook, who's an art teacher at Leisure Park Elementary and the district elementary lead art teacher. Welcome, Katy.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Happy to be here.
And a BA lifer.
BA lifer.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. So I like to talk to our guests and kind of get their background. So you can go back as far as you want. You go all the way back to elementary school,
Okay.
but tell us about your educational journey to where you are today, where you went to school, degrees, all that fun stuff.
Okay, so I'm one of the weird ones here. I am.
Aren't we all?
I know. I am not a BA lifer. I graduated with 50 people in my graduating class from Newkirk, Oklahoma. And
Where is that?
It's on the northern part of Oklahoma. We are about 10 miles south of Ark City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Kansas, and about 15 miles north of Ponca City, Oklahoma.
Okay, so I can relate to that.
Yes, yeah, in that
I
Kate
got
County
that.
area. But that's what started my music journey. I was in a band. I was in choir. I played in jazz band. And the beautiful thing about Newkirk is when you do one thing, you do them all, because we have the same amount of things that everyone has. We just have fewer people to do them.
Right.
So I would go cheer at the football games and then go march in the marching field, in my cheerleading uniform for halftime. At the same time, the football players would come off and take their pads off and put their drums on, and they would go play too.
That's
So
awesome.
It was it's awesome. It's
I love those
being
small
a
school
town. Isn't it
feelings.
awesome?
Yeah.
So I went to college and wanted to be a band director, and my parents said, no. And so I decided to go be a microbiologist instead.
Oh, same thing.
And found out I did not like the chemistry. I couldn't do chemistry very well. So for everyone who can do chemistry, I applaud you because I cannot. So when I was there, I changed my major to English instead, and I got out with an English degree. So my bachelor's actually says English literature.
Interesting.
And so I am actually certified to teach middle school language arts. But trust me, no one wants me to do that. And so when I got out, I actually worked in television for a while. I worked at Educational Television Services, which is on the campus of Oklahoma State University. And one of the things we did was we worked with the Coaches Show. And during that time, they got a big truck. So I got to learn how to run the camera in all positions for football games and how to actually produce and direct a show.
I am learning so much about you right now in this moment.
I don't know how many years. And I know, right? So I got to direct for closed circuit TV. And through that, I was able to work for ESPN and Fox Sports and ABC Sports on all the basketball games.
I think ArrowVision needs to recruit you.
I love my television time. I did. But in the middle of all this, the state went through some budget cuts. And when you have like 30 to 50 people in your building that you're with all the time and you lose 3 of them because of budget cuts, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And so at that point I went, I think maybe I should be doing something else. So I told my parents if I ever went back to school, I would go back, I would get certified in music, and I would teach music. And so that's kind of how it all went. So while I was working at Oklahoma State, I would take classes during lunch hours and on the side, and then also work overtime on the weekends during football games and basketball season and that kind of thing. And I didn't graduate, but I got certified to teach elementary music and vocal and general music. So my certificate says pre-K through 12, which is what all certificates
That's
do.
the gamut right there.
Yeah. I'm 20 hours from actually having an actual bachelor's degree in music.
Oh,
But,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
And then I've also been certified in all 3 levels of Kodai, of the Kodai methodology, and all 3 levels of the Orff Schulwerk process. So I have all 3 levels of that too.
My goodness.
And this is my 24th, 25th year teaching music, and my 17th year in the district, and my first year at Rosewood teaching elementary music.
You're like a Swiss Army knife. Like that's your new name from now on. Impressive. Very good. Very cool. And so with being the elementary music lead, how long have you been doing that with the district?
So that's been about I'm going to say maybe 10 to 12 years, somewhere around in there. I've been part of the lead. At first, it became a co-lead. And within the last few years, the ones that we had as co-leads, they have left or have retired or have, just gone on to other things in their lives. And so this year, it was just me. And that's how it worked.
There you go. Goodness. All right, Katie, you got to follow that up. Are you ready?
Wow.
I came in this room, and that's my history. Here I am.
Here I am.
Opening act.
Yeah. Well, I moved to Broken Arrow when I was in 8th grade and started right up with the band. I was a flute player and I was in color guard. And
was Tom Stout your director?
Tom Stout was my
good old Tom.
And Dr. Davis was one of my band directors, and so I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Graduated from Broken Arrow in '96 and took a slight detour. Didn't go right into college. I went out and was a zookeeper.
What?
Nice.
I got to leave now. I don't know anything about you two. This is terrible.
I worked at the Tulsa Zoo for a long time, 3 or 4 years, and then I moved out to Seattle, Washington, and was a zookeeper out there. Came back and got a job at Holland Hall, and that kind of made me realize I wanted to go back into education. And so went to school at Langston University here in Tulsa, got my bachelor's, and then got hired on back at, this is 17 years ago, I think. I think this is year 17 for me. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was at Arrow Springs.
When it was an elementary school.
Yes. It was a pre-K through 5th grade.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that was a while ago. And then when it closed down, I moved over to Spring Creek and taught 4th and 5th grades, both
general education
at both Arrow Springs and Spring Creek. And then the job opened up at Leisure Park, where I am now, and for the art position, and got my certification and just jumped right in there. So, and in the middle of all that, I've gotten my master's in curriculum and instruction.
So I need to apologize to the readers, the listeners, to everybody that I know nothing about the two people that I work with closely all the time. Good grief.
On your toes.
I'm telling, yeah, I mean, goodness, I thought someone was going to tell me like you were a ninja for a while, and yeah. But, sometimes when you're a teacher, you kind of have to be. You have to be sneaky. Yeah. And I mean, zookeeper background. I mean, you know how to handle wild animals. So
Exactly.
So being in the elementary music and art, you guys have the unique position of seeing every single student in your building. A 4th grade teacher, they get a group, etc. You guys see them all. How does that impact you with your relationship with all those kids?
We not only see them all, but we see them from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. So building those foundational relationships in kindergarten is life-changing. I mean, I have students that I had as kindergartners that have now graduated, and it's so neat to have them come back and see me in the classroom. And it's
yeah, that's cool.
Seeing every kid every day, and it's just amazing. So, I mean, there's no other word to describe it, really. It's just kind of amazing.
I mean, would it be fair to say that some kids, your classroom is their favorite classroom?
Absolutely.
Oh, I would hope so. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I would absolutely hope so. And I know sometimes it's not too, and that's okay.
Right.
Sometimes they're just there and they do well because they like me, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
I don't really like music, Miss Parker, but I like you, and that sometimes that works.
I can't draw, Miss Cook, but I like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and we talked about too before with other guests that like it's a safe space for some of these kids.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And just like they just feel they can just be themselves and be creative. And of course we nurture that. So Kate, you see every kid too, and you come from a pretty large school at Rosewood. Yes. How many kids are in your school at this current moment?
I think we have about 620 right now. So
and are you the
large.
500s? I'm in the 5.
I mean, that's still a pretty big school,
yeah,
especially since she graduated with just 50 human beings in her graduating
That's
class. True. So seeing every kid like that, like how does that help you as a teacher watching them go from K through 5 if they stay with you the whole time?
Well, I think in one sense, like Kitty was right, you get this wonderful relationship with them. And it is so important to start that at kindergarten, because when they get to 5th grade and they're going through so many changes and so many life things that are going on, it's really easy to look at them and go, hey, but I knew you in kindergarten, so we're good. And I trust
the world's not ending, I promise.
I trust you. Yeah. Big things.
So I think that does also help make the safe space. And then I think the other thing that makes the safe space is where we are different from classroom teachers is we get to play. Everything in the classroom, especially in that kindergarten, first grade, second grade year, but in all of them to a sense. And it's not just about playing instruments. It's about playing with the imagination. It's about playing with all of the things. It's about playing with the music that they like and the music that they don't like. And it's about all of that too. And so that I think adds to their development, and we make their brains work differently. I mean, that's part of it also.
Well, I think you unlock part of their brains.
Yes,
actually.
and meld part of their brains. I tell my kids, I tell my students when they come see me, I help them cross the streams and the hemispheres. I mean, to bring, because I think that's because they start using both sides.
Right.
They use that analytical side, they use that creative side, and then it starts kind of melding together.
Which then helps the classroom teachers too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do they realize that? I mean, they need to know that. Yes.
I hope they do. I hope they realize how much they could do. I mean, whenever I was a classroom teacher, I did a lot of art and music in my classroom just because it connects the kids to the information that they're learning. So
Right. So let's flash back. Let's go back in time. 2 whole years.
Okay.
To a certain thing we had called the pandemic.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time, how in the world did you teach fine arts in a pandemic? That is so hands-on. That is so vocal. That is so together. How did you pivot? How'd you do it? Either one, you can take this one.
Well,
or both.
At the beginning, when we Broken Arrow didn't go back after spring break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we were doing that, it was, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm building the plane as I'm flying it, so to speak. And so I started doing Facebook Live videos, and I found a video editing software. I would make my own videos and post them on Facebook and get them out to the kids any way that I could. I'd send them to my classroom teacher, say, hey, send this link to your families. Let them have some creativity. Any way that I could possibly reach out to those kids online. I mean, we didn't really know what we were doing with Canvas at that point.
Well, there were no resources either because, nobody planned for a pandemic to happen.
Right, nobody had done this.
Right.
So there were things I took away from the pandemic and really the year after that I have kept doing. Just basic strategies and things like that in my classroom that I've kept up with. That I didn't know I needed to do until the pandemic. So there were some good things that came out of it.
Interesting. Yeah. What about you, kid?
So I think for me, going back at the spring break, I learned a lot about myself, and where I had the experience a couple of years before that going to Walt Disney World with a friend of mine who worked in an online school situation. And I watched her as she hooked up with her students like through texts and that kind of thing. And she would put their grades in at 3:30 in the morning as we were headed to the start line of the race and things like that.
Goodness.
It was so much fun. But I'm watching her do all this and I thought, yeah, I could do that. And then pandemic hit. And I realized that I am not a very good internet kind of teacher. Like that is just not, I need the students, but I also need the energy that comes from them and they need mine. And so you don't get that. You get some of it, but you don't get that on a video over, especially with music. And then on top of that, you've got that second delay. So singing just does not work.
I saw people do that. How?
Awful. Yeah. Oh no, it's awful.
Yeah.
You cannot do it. But then during 2020, when we came back, there were things that we lost, I think, musically. So group work is a huge part of music, ensembles, that kind of thing. And they start learning that in elementary. We start putting them together in groups and asking them to design things and create things and that kind of thing. And we couldn't do that. For the first time ever, I had kids sitting in rows because I thought if we sing at all, even if they have their masks on, at least it will go into the back of their head.
Right,
I thought no one ever takes from the back of their head and then wipes their eye. Like that's not going to happen.
Kids might, you never know.
It is true, but I was hoping.
Stop touching each other.
Yeah, exactly. So Rose set up a whole new kind of world in my classroom. It was good on some respects because there was less of the, and we're 3 feet apart, so there was less than all of that.
Right.
At the same time, there were so many things I couldn't do because we just didn't have the room because we needed the room for the seating.
Right.
So no groups was really hard. Very little singing was very hard. I know some schools even shut down their singing completely. So that was also very hard. You can't do singing games that way. You can't do. So there were a lot of things that we had to really, that I had to really turn and pivot and recreate to be able to do in classroom. A lot of favorite things that I normally do that I could not do in that way. I will say this. The magic water from Broken Arrow, that is not what we call it, but that's what I say. The
Terrasana water.
The Terrasana water. Yes, that was awesome. That was lovely because I could just spray everywhere. And so that's been wonderful. That was a wonderful gift, yes. I think, in that way from the pandemic. So there were good things that came out of it.
Would you say it made you both better teachers after the fact, or more
different?
Just different teachers? Different.
Yeah.
Teacher. I mean, yeah. I think for me, I like to laugh and joke and be silly and goofy, and kind of like what Kit was saying, whenever I was doing that online, I wasn't getting any of that energy back. So I missed that. And so now I'm probably even more silly and goofy, if that's even possible. I mean,
were you like, am I funny?
Am I funny?
Am I really funny?
Am I cool? Fifth graders.
You're sure you are cool. I mean, you were a zookeeper for crying out loud.
That's true.
Well, and for me, I think I learned there are a lot more things you can do with your body with sound and rhythm and that kind of thing than I think I ever thought possible, because getting out instruments was always a pain to like clean them. So
right.
And that year, because we could not do anything on stage, my fifth graders looked different when they were, so I had the librarian come in and actually video a whole, I don't want to say program, but maybe just a little vignette of sort of out of a book. So we got to tell a story with music by the end of that year.
So they, in essence, got to do their fifth grade musical, not in the regular way they did.
Yes, it was very different. It was good for that class. That class did it really. So I think that part was good too. But yeah, there were just lots of things I learned, I think, about myself and about students, and even more of what I feel like they need in my classroom setting, and what we can kind of leave away, and that works too.
And I think we're still seeing some of the effects of it. I mean, I think we will for years.
Oh, absolutely.
But, having 2 years of not traditional art and music classes have really kind of put our kids behind a little bit, and so we're trying to play catch up, like the classroom teachers are too. But it's, with us at least, having them every year, we have a little bit more flexibility with playing catch up, which is kind of nice.
Because when they go to the middle school, they may not be with somebody they may not take any art until they get to the high school, and then that whole 3 years. But that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other podcast.
So, Katy, you have had the unique pleasure of being a part of the state art standards that have recently. Why don't you tell a little bit about how that's come about?
So, gosh, I don't know, 3 years ago, they started rewriting the state art standards to be more to be better representative of what we're actually teaching. And they also added pre-K standards to the fine arts standards. And the first round, I think Kit actually helped with the music ones, but the first round we're actually writing the standards. And then what I helped with was taking those standards and breaking them down into, what does this really mean for a teacher? What resources can I have? And we spent hours upon hours upon hours of finding resources, and anybody from Newkirk, Oklahoma could go in all the way to Broken Arrow. It's a classroom that doesn't have art, music, can go in and take a look at those standards and really have a pretty well-rounded program.
Because that's, when you say state, that's everybody in the state can have access to all that stuff.
Absolutely.
On the music level, so I was part of the phase 1 where we actually wrote the standards. And on the music level, for the elementary music, I worked with 5 teachers from around the district, from around the state, of Oklahoma, all different areas. And we added pre-K, but also kindergarten standards, which were not available before this. And we also added 6th grade general music standards for those who had 6th graders still in their general music classes. And there are a few around here that do. So we had those as well. And then there was a whole secondary group that did that. So I was part of that first phase, where Katy was part of the second and third. Yeah.
And how important are these standards to our classroom teachers across the state?
Oh, we live them. I mean, that's our guide for what we're teaching our kids, from kindergarten all the way through secondary, all the way through 12th grade. This is what we teach.
And if people have access to those, I've gone on and looked at them.
Yeah.
Unbelievable resources in there.
Right.
Just how-tos and here's how it applies to this. And that's, just
parents
unbelievable.
Can go and look and see what their kids are learning that year too, which is kind of neat.
Well, and I will say too that they are flexible enough. Like, I've seen the standards that classroom teachers have, and I feel like those are pretty rigid in some ways. Ours are flexible enough to where, in my opinion, a good music lesson will hit 80 to 85% of your standards, 85 to 90% of the time. So
that's some good math right there.
Yeah. So as I'm doing, like, my principal asks for standards on my thing, and as I'm doing them and highlighting them, I find that I'm highlighting a lot of the same ones, but it's over and over, because as we do it, one song can teach so many different things. One art project can teach so many different things.
And
so
they build on each other too.
Yes, and they do, and they build on each other.
So we're going to switch gears here.
Okay.
For Kit. Your elementary schools, one of their big things is they love to perform in front of their parents. So like they love to do love to get on stage. I've seen kids when they come to rehearsals for your musicals walk onto that stage for the first time. The lights are shining on. They're like, whoa. Like they're so overwhelmed. Yeah, they just hits them, and they realize, okay, this is something I'm actually doing. We're not just singing in my classroom. We've been learning all this music for all this time. Tell me about all of those programs that happen right now this time of year. Like, there's just so many going on.
So we do ours as a group. Ours usually happens somewhere between November and about March, maybe 1st of April, because we have some times that we have to get in, and that all depends on what the scheduling is like for the PAC or the Kirkland or whatever. So we work with the people who schedule those venues very, very closely to find the best times for our kids. So I know that a friend of mine in Owasso just did a Halloween program. She said it was crazy to put together because it's so close.
It's pretty fast.
But it's fast. But she really loved doing it. One of our other, I think Rachel over at Spring Creek just did hers in November. There are Veterans Day programs that go on at this time. All of that. Our big musical type programs usually start happening between now and March. So I know many of us are doing ours in the spring.
So I have to brag on Rachel because I went to that.
She's amazing.
It was a STEM musical. So not only was it a musical, but she brought in science and math into the musical. And it was also a drama because the kids had lines. Yeah. There were robots. There were what are those flying things? Drones. There were what are those flying things? Good grief! It was amazing because also then all the lights went out and then they were all doing black lights. I mean, it was.
She is amazing.
It was so, and I thought to myself, that's the kind of musical I want to put on if I did. Of course, nobody wants me. Yeah, right? Exactly. So I don't think people realize how in depth sometimes those get for those kids.
Yeah. Well, and how I think now too. One of the things that came out of COVID, because we could not perform on the stage, during that year, a lot of us did things that really fit our school where we were working at the time. And that Emily Fusel over at CLI is doing that now. She is really making a program that will fit her school. So where she will not go on the stage per se, she will have a fine arts night, almost like we have a literacy night.
Yeah, she talked to me about that.
Yeah, and it's going to be so cool. She is really working. Each class will have their own kind of 15 minutes of fame thing where they get to choose what they're doing. And she's going to work with that all in their classroom over the next few weeks. And so, yeah, and everything that we do that goes on the stage or that goes in the fine arts night that's all done in our classrooms first. And we put, then when you see the stage, it's the final product. So a lot of hard work goes on to every day.
Well, and then you have an end of the year kind of big musical. And is it all fifth grade?
It's all fifth grade choir. Yeah.
And what is it? Tell me about that.
It's the Broken Arrow Elementary Choral Festival. The teachers get together every year, those of us that have fifth grade, and we decide on a theme and we choose the music. And Rachel Lester and I cannot remember our other person that's in charge of it, but Rachel Lester is one of the ones in charge this year.
Where's she at?
And she's at
Arrowhead. Is that correct?
Yes, she's at Arrowhead.
I'm starting to remember these things.
Yeah. Well, and I had to think for a minute because I had Arrow Springs in my head. And it's like, that's not it.
Times when I don't even know where I am.
But she's the head director for this, in charge of all of that. So we went through her, and so she's getting ready to get the choreography team together, and so we can create choreography for the songs that we have, videotape it all, send out to the
every
teachers.
kid learns the exact same songs, right?
Yes, all the fifth grade honor choirs. So all of us have an honor choir that we use. That some of them are auditions, some of them are sign-ups. It doesn't matter, but and then we will get together and we will all go to the assembly in Broken Arrow and we will perform in front of about 3,000 parents.
And is that about 1,000 kids? 500 kids?
About 400 to 500 on the stage, depending on how big our choirs are.
That's a lot of kids on the stage.
A lot of kids on the stage.
Which is probably why we have to do it at assembly. We don't
we don't have the room
anywhere here to put it in. Yeah. So you at Katy also have a big end of year celebration. Talk about the district art show.
Have the art show at NSUBA. This year it's going to be in April, the first 2 weeks of April. Usually it runs a couple of weeks, and everybody from pre-K all the way through 12th grade has artwork on display. And it's amazing to see the growth from the kids when they're walking around
Right.
and they're going around and they're looking at, oh, this is middle school. This is what I can do next year. Oh, this is high school. Look at,
Yeah.
That's
it's
called
just-
recruitment.
Yeah. So it's a big deal. To kind of stay tuned for information about that and
Well,
come
I've
out and see us.
Taken my kids in the past, and they're so excited just to rush over there and show me, this is mine. This is mine. I got picked. This is
Right.
in my thing. And just, it's so fun to see them on display
Pride
like that.
they show in that. Yeah.
So another thing that we do in this district that a lot of people don't know is adaptive fine arts. And both of you have had experience with that adaptive art, adaptive music. Let's talk about that. First of all, for the listeners that don't know, what is adaptive art?
Adaptive art is for special needs students. For me, I see my students once a week, my adaptive students once a week, and we are working on skills. It looks different than what a regular general education classroom looks like. We're working on skills fine motor skills that really help them. But it's amazing to see the artwork that they can come up with too. And
Well, you have two kind of flags in your, I don't know, what's that saying?
Feathers in your cap?
Yeah, feathers in your cap, flags,
flags in your
feathers, all the
whatever.
above. You have partnered with a local coffee shop.
Yes,
Talk
I
about
have.
that, because that's just so cool.
It's so
Tell us about that.
Not Your Average Joe's in Broken Arrow. It's over at Emerson Orthodontics over north
By St. John.
By St. John,
Ascension St. John.
Ascension St. John, and they're a coffee shop that hires individuals with disabilities. And so my level 2 and level 3 students make artwork every season to go on display in Not Your Average Joe's.
That's so
So
fantastic.
anytime you go in there and you see the artwork, they're finishing up their winter Christmassy projects right now. We were working on Christmas trees last week. So, and then it's neat to see
And they go there too, right? You take them to the shop?
We take them up there and they get a hot coffee. So they have to work on ordering their hot chocolate. Oh goodness.
I was like, coffee sounds great. Yeah, give me a double espresso with.
Sending my kids back to class with coffee.
Hey, can you
Oh,
imagine?
goodness. I'd have a few teachers upset with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get to have a hot chocolate and sit there in the coffee shop and
Oh, that's
it's
so
much
fun.
So much fun.
Secondly, you recently just had the Special Olympics, the Fall Winter Special Olympics, and you had art kids there who
did.
brought home some awards.
We kind of swept Special Olympics for sure.
We're like that. We're cool like that.
Cool like that. Yeah. So in the fall and in the spring, we meet once a week, and we have students that are 8 years old and above come, and we have practices, and I'm their coach, which is a word.
You're
I
a
never-
coach.
I am.
I got to get you a
never-
jacket with like that
I
monogram
know.
on
I
it.
never would have expected me to be a coach, but here I am, coaching art. So go team. But just this last week, we took our students to Catoosa, and we had the art and music competition, and a lot of our kids came home with first place ribbons.
You
And
sent me those artwork, and they were amazing.
Amazing.
Like
Yeah.
we could hang those somewhere. They're
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
You let me know where, and I'll get a frame for
I'll
them.
make it happen right now.
Okay.
And Kit, you have worked with special needs students in music.
Yes, but I will say I do not have the kind of experience that Katy has because I've not had them that long.
You don't have the coach
Wait,
jacket
I
yet.
do not have, nor I don't think deserve the coach jacket
I know
for
somebody.
special
We
needs.
can help you out there.
No, so at Rhodes, when I was at Rhodes, we obtained, I guess that's the best way to say it, a level 3 class with autism students. And so that was actually the first time that I had actually seen a level 3 autism class come in. We always have, I think you have special needs students wherever you go. And so you're constantly adapting or refining or differentiating for
Right.
that, what you're teaching and how you're teaching it for them. But this was my first time with like a whole group of them. And so it was so much fun. And after I kind of learned a little bit more about them and talked to their teachers and, kind of read some more things and went to some workshops, it became a little bit easier to do. But it took me a little while to kind of get into it. But they were great. I absolutely loved them.
Well,
It's my favorite day of the week.
What a universal language art is for
Absolutely.
special
Right?
needs kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
They all understand it, and even if there's a barrier, that breaks through
Right.
that barrier for them.
Absolutely.
And I had kids who were nonverbal. So imagine nonverbal in a singing
In a music class.
Right. In a music class.
Yeah.
And yet I had kids who we did lots of music where I would just kind of make up movement that would go with it, like just sit in the chair and make up motions or whatever. And I had lots of kids who would do the motions with me, even though they were not, singing.
Right,
And I
right.
had one kid who would try to sing. He could get the ooh sound in the word moon. And we did a song called Under the Owl Moon. And it was lovely. And he would really that one just came out. Like
That was
every
his
time we would get
solo.
to it, he loved it. And so that was, I really loved doing that with those kids too. It was really fun.
Well, and that goes from elementary all the way up through the high school. I know that the adapted music class at the high school, there's a student in there who I think might be visually impaired, but holds a tennis ball to keep the beat of the song.
See, that's so cool. Yeah.
It's just amazing. You think about little stuff that you don't think about, but then it's the world to them. And it just,
And things for me in art, it's things that we use in everyday life that we now take and use as art tools.
Right.
For example, I got Matchbox cars, and they were painting with the Matchbox cars.
oh,
And
cool.
it just turned out to be a really cool project. But things that we kind of take for granted, and we just turn those into art.
Well,
Okay.
and you're constantly learning about them too.
True.
You're constantly learning about the kid because each kid's a little bit, unique. And
Right.
so you're constantly learning about what is going to hit that kid and so it's kind of cool.
Yeah. That's like a heart filling.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's a
Yeah.
good, it's a
Big
great
time.
feeling.
Okay. So I have a magic wand and $1 million.
Yay.
Okay.
Hypothetically,
Do we each get a
you each get $1 million, you each
Okay.
get a magic wand. Blue sky dreaming.
Okay.
What would fine arts look like in the future to you in your respective areas?
Go
And it's like, who goes first? Who goes
Go art first.
Oh, goodness. I would love for every student to have equity in their programs. I would love for each art teacher to have an infinite budget. That would be amazing. Right now, we work with about $1.50 per student, which we get pretty creative on stretching. So any increase to that budget, wow, I don't even know what all I would want.
When I've asked this question to people in the past, I hear like, I would love a whole academy that's just art.
Just art.
An art academy,
Yeah. I would love all sorts of tools and resources that I can't afford to buy on my regular budget, that I don't have to write grants for, that I would just have in my classroom as part of it. I don't know.
I flabbergasted you.
You've left me.
Write this
speechless.
moment down.
I know. It doesn't happen often that I'm speechless. So
What about you, Kit?
I agree with the equity part. And for us, it will be instruments. Like for us, it's going to be instruments and resources in the classroom. We need more boom whackers. We need more scarves. We need more mallets. We need more Orff instruments. We need more drums. We need more, all of those things we would need. So I would love for every teacher to have enough supplies of their unpitched and pitched instruments in their classroom for classes of 30. Like I would love for that would be like the definition.
Explain to our listeners what that means by pitched and unpitched.
Oh, okay. So an Orff instrument is usually considered a xylophone. So let's look at them as xylophones, although you have all different sizes.
Right.
If you have a class of 30 and you only have 5, your kids can play that, but in rows of 6. So
they're waiting their turn.
So you got 8-year-olds waiting their turn.
And then you're pushing because you're too close to me in this line.
Yes.
And so you're being a teacher and a disciplinarian at the same time.
Yes. And it's very hard to get anything done. So having enough for 30 does not necessarily mean 30 instruments, but it means enough to where maybe 2 can share, like per instrument. Like that's what I would like to see. And so that would be the pitched side. And then the unpitched, it sounds weird to have 10 wood blocks or 10 tambourines or 10 triangles or whatever. But if you are teaching kids how to play that instrument, you've got kindergartners. Playing a triangle is very fine motor. They have to hold the string and then they have to tap. And putting that in groups of 3 is a whole lot easier than trying to put it in groups of 5. So I think having enough for 30 hand drums, 30 recorders per class that's going to teach recorder, 30 ukuleles, and as I said, maybe 15 to 20 pitched, xylophone instruments in their classroom that they could use and like share off of and that kind of thing. That's what I would like to see as far as the room goes. As far as the overall arching district goes, I would love to see a general music class be expanded from the elementary up to the middle school, up to the high school, so that kids who cannot afford instruments or cannot afford the uniforms to be in choir, or maybe they don't sing, or maybe this isn't their thing, then they would have also a place to go that would be fine arts. It could be, again, Orff instruments, drums, recorders that they do not have to buy. And you can do all of those things just on a higher level kind of thing. They could compose their own music. We could get them into writing in software like Finale or Sibelius and that kind of thing. That's what I would love to see, is have that expanded all the way up to a high school level.
See, and me with my magic wand, I would love a more in-depth graphic design department, because graphic design is art and art is graphic design, and they're mutually exclusive. When I went to school, you took art classes and you took graphic design classes in your art major, no matter what. You took both because both were the foundation of each other. And then for music, I agree with you about that. But I would love to see, the recording techniques and mastering and production. Yeah. Like that's what I would love to see.
Absolutely.
I just want a whole school of just music production. Like a blue sky dreaming here.
I thought of something.
Oh, I love it.
I'd love a museum of just our artwork.
Ooh, yeah.
A museum of just student artwork.
Yeah. I would love a dedicated gallery that changed out every, I used to curate a gallery. So to me, that sounds like a lot of fun to do that with our kids. And
let's do that.
Okay. I'll just my magic wand's around here somewhere.
And now that we're thinking.
Now, see, I've expanded your horizons.
Yeah. See, I would also I would love to have a dedicated music library, so that those are the things, so that, the music that we order could go into one area. And if I needed to look at something that Spring Creek did, I could just go to that library, and check it out or whatever, or have someone who would run it and check it out for me. I think they have something like that in Norman, but I'm not positive.
I bet we could figure that out here.
Yeah.
We're pretty smart individuals.
Katie and I would also like to have, I'm going to rope you in on this one. Katie and I would also like to have instructional specialists for the elementary art and music team.
Explain to our viewers, our listeners, what that means. What is an instructional specialist? Because we're using a lot of lingo here today.
I know. So instructional specialists are people who can go and help teachers plan, help them learn assessments, help them with classroom management. Those are the things that the instructional specialists do around our district. We have several. We have some for elementary. We have some for, I think there's an instructional specialist for science. In secondary, there's gifted instructional specialists. There's special ed instructional specialists. We have lots of them to help those teachers out who might be struggling or have questions or just need new ideas.
Right.
And resources, exactly. And I would love to have that for the elementary fine arts area, whether it's one for music possibly and one for art. I know that instructional specialists have somewhere between 15 to 18 teachers that they go see, which is why we have a lot. We have 16 elementary schools now. And so that would make sense to have one of each.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll make a call.
Okay.
Thanks.
They might hang up on me, but I'll make one.
Make a call.
Well, I hate to say this to you, but we're done for the day, and I know we probably could sit here and just talk for another half an hour if we really wanted to. But thank you so much for being a part of this. Once again, Katy Cook, Kit Parker, you guys are awesome. This is just seems so natural. Just have a great time. This is It's Fine, official podcast of Broken Arrow Public Schools on the ArrowVision Network, and we will see you next time.